We continue our reading of Pope Francis's meditations, Meeting Jesus in the Sacraments. The Pope highlights in chapter 1, I confess one baptism, three aspects of baptism from the Creed. I confess one baptism for the remission of sins. The second element is one baptism. I believe one baptism. This expression refers to St. Paul. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, from his letter to the Ephesians chapter 4 verse 5. The word baptism literally means immersion, and in fact this sacrament constitutes a true spiritual immersion in the death of Christ, from which one rises with him like a new creation. It is the washing of regeneration and of illumination. Regeneration because it brings about that birth by water and the Spirit, without which no one may enter the kingdom of heaven. Illumination because through baptism the human person becomes filled with the grace of Christ, the true light that enlightens every man. The true light which dispels the shadows of sin. That is why in the ceremony of baptism the parents are given a lit candle to signify this illumination. Baptism illuminates us from within with the light of Jesus. In virtue of this gift, the baptized are called to become themselves light, the light of the faith they received. They become light, they are called to be light for their brothers and sisters, especially for those who are in darkness and see no glimmer of light on the horizon of their lives. Then the Pope ends this paragraph with a question. Can we ask ourselves, is baptism for me a fact of the past, relegated to a date, that date which you are going to go look for today? Or is it a living reality that pertains to my present, to every moment? Do you feel strong with the strength that Christ gave you by his death and resurrection? Or do you feel low without strength? Baptism gives strength and it gives light. Do you feel enlightened with that light that comes from Christ? Are you a man or woman of light? Or are you a dark person without the light of Jesus? We need to take the grace of baptism, which is a gift, and become a light for all people. On today's feast, the conversion of St. Paul, when we read his own very moving account of his conversion, I imagined him when he gave this talk, this recollection, that his voice was trembling. You could sense the sensation, the sensation of the original event, in a sense that he was always interrupted by emotion. And the same with our answering Pope Francis's question, that do we feel the light, the strength, the grace, the life which is in baptism, or we are a person without light, a dark person who still needs to reconnect with this source? We don't really have a recollection, if we were baptized as babies or young children, we don't have a recollection of our own baptism, but when we learn the depth of our baptism, with the help also today with the Pope's meditation in this series, somehow when we recall the fact of our baptism, that what happened to us in, what gifts we were given, the erasure of the forgiveness of the original sin, becoming children of God, reconnecting through grace with the friendship of the Father, our voice, or the voice of our soul, should be trembling, because this is the most precious event in our life. And then, perhaps to sum up or to conclude, we can understand that baptism is not a past event. Baptism is the biggest possible change in our lives. It's an ontological change, when our whole existence was changed. We understand that life, which comes through baptism, is life in the present tense, that it's genuine life which surrounds us, like the atmosphere around a globe, or the air, the oxygen which we are breathing in. It is genuine life. It is abundant life. And this life is the ground of the well-being of our soul, but also the ground of the well-being of a sustainable community. When life is balancing all what is trying to bring down our life. So let us celebrate the gift of our baptism. Let us celebrate that through this baptism many doors have opened up for us, which are leading us to Christ, like the communion which we receive in the Holy Mass.